he takes over, Senator Hawley, you will take over for me now, please. Go ahead, Senator Durbin.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Welcome. Thank you very much for coming before us today and bringing your great family. Terrific. Glad that they're here. So let's get down to basics. Under Article 3, is your loyalty to the law and Constitution or to the president who nominated you?
Welcome back, Patriots, to the Constitution Corner, your home for unapologetic truth, hard-hitting analysis, and real American values. Before we get started today, do me a quick favor. Hit that like button, subscribe to the channel, and ring the notification bell so you never miss a breakdown of what the Washington elite would rather you ignore.
Under both Article 3 and Article 6, the constitutional oath, the oath is to faithfully follow the laws that apply in a given case.
And the Constitution?
Absolutely.
Is the executive branch required to follow the orders of a federal court?
So, of course, this is an issue before the Supreme Court right now, and what I heard the Solicitor General say is how I understand the law as well, which is if there's a judgment issued by a court as to the parties, that absolutely binds the parties, and the way to go about your business if you disagree with an order is to seek maybe a stay or emergency relief or appellate review.
And after you've exhausted all of those opportunities, is the executive branch of our government required to follow the orders of the federal court?
Yes, if the Supreme Court issues an order at the end of the appellate review process, that order is to be followed as to the parties in the case.
Ms. Hermendorfer, I'm a little bit interested in the decision that you and the state of Tennessee made to file an amicus brief in the Supreme Court in the case of Trump versus CASA. That case involved challenges to President Trump's unconstitutional executive order that purports to end birthright citizenship. President Trump's executive order has been blocked by a judge appointed by President Ronald Reagan, who said, and I quote, "I've been on the bench for over 4 decades. I can't remember another case where the question presented was as clear as this one. This is a blatantly unconstitutional order," referring to the order to end birthright citizenship. The state of Tennessee was not a party to that case. You filed this amicus brief voluntarily, and you reached a conclusion which the court ruled the most blatantly unconstitutional order in decades. Why?
So, of course, we were amicus in the case, and the decision was made by the Attorney General, reflecting the values of Tennesseans, that we were not satisfied that all of the information regarding the contemporaneous meaning of the 14th Amendment was being presented to the various courts, given that the litigation was proceeding so quickly and at such a pace through the TRO and PI process. So our role as amicus, as is any amicus's role, which was to bring additional information that could be helpful to the court's attention. And what we did there was draw the court's attention to contemporaneous 1800s era sources regarding the meaning of the 14th Amendment. And I will note, Ranking Member Durbin, that even in courts that disagreed with the president's executive order, Tennessee's amicus brief was called out in particular as especially well-written and mentioned by the judges in the hearing. So I'm hopeful that we provided helpful information as the court considered its decision, which is all you can ask, is to ensure the court has all the information before it as it deliberates.
Did you agree with President Trump on this issue?
So the brief did not take an ultimate position with regard to the merits of the executive order. What it did was say the notion that this is an open and shut case is hard to square with the contemporaneous evidence and executive branch practice in the latter 1800s interpreting the meaning of the Citizenship Clause. And so I stand by completely those arguments and the historical sources that we advanced to the court.
You heard my opening remarks, perhaps, when I related my experience with the so-called Federalist Society. I asked judicial nominee after nominee, why do you belong to this group? Well, it became pretty clear because this was the secret handshake, the calling card, if you wanted to be considered favorably to be a Republican nominee for a federal judgeship. Well, they seem to have fallen on disfavor with President Trump. Leonard Leo has been characterized by the president as a sleazebag, and he went on to say some other negative things about the Federalist Society. So now there's a new operation called the Tenno Network. Are you familiar with the Tenno Network?
Yes, Ranking Member Durbin.
Do you realize it was created by that same old sleazebag, Leonard Leo?
I don't think I was aware of that.
What is it?
The Tenno Network, and I am a member as disclosed on my SJQ. I'm a new member, so I haven't had too much involvement, I will say. My understanding is that it's similar to the Federalist Society in that it's kind of a debating network and a networking group where individuals from across industries can get together and discuss the issues of the day and get insights into what challenges might be facing various industries.
Listen, you must lead a pretty busy life. Your professional responsibilities, your family responsibilities. Why would you want to join this network so you can, well, describe for me, why would you want to join this network?
So it was commended to me by colleagues, and I'm always interested as a Tennessean in connecting with other Tennesseans to discuss the issues of the day. I have not had any meaningful involvement given that I believe I was asked to join or invited to join a week or so before I was informed that I was receiving the nomination. And so I haven't attended since then any sort of events or been involved.
Thank you.
I'm going to yield my time now to Senator Blackburn. Just before I do, I just want to just clarify one thing to make sure I understood your answer, Ms. Hermendorfer, to my friend Senator Durbin's question. He's asking about the CASA case. He talked about your brief filed in the CASA case. The state of Tennessee was the party they're filing. Is that correct?
That's right. And there's no filing that I would ever make or have made that would not reflect the interest of Tennessee.
You're representing your client. This is the state of Tennessee. You work for the state of Tennessee.
That's correct. I'm a state public servant who has a client and adheres to the direction of my appointed boss, the Attorney General.
And I think your amicus brief also spent a good deal of time arguing that courts do not have Article III power to bind non-parties. In other words, it was about universal injunctions or nationwide injunctions. Wasn't that a core piece of your amicus brief?
That was an important part of the brief.
Yeah, I thought so. Senator Blackburn.
Today, we're reacting to a truly revealing exchange during a Senate Judiciary Committee hearing involving a judicial nominee from Tennessee, Ms. Hermendorfer. And folks, let me tell you, this isn't just your average hearing. This is about the Constitution, executive power, birthright citizenship, judicial activism, and yes, the relentless leftist obsession with undermining anything associated with President Trump. Right from the top, Senator Josh Hawley takes the floor like a true constitutionalist, asking the simple but critical question: is your loyalty to the law and Constitution or to the president who nominated you? And what do we get from Ms. Darfur? The textbook answer: loyalty to the Constitution and the law. Now, that may sound fine on the surface, but we know the left doesn't actually believe that when conservatives are in charge. They only care about that loyalty when the court decisions go their way. Let's not kid ourselves. Then comes the bombshell moment. Senator Hawley drilling down on whether the executive branch must follow federal court orders. Darfur acknowledges that, yes, once a case runs its course through the appeals process, a final Supreme Court ruling must be followed. But pay close attention, patriots. This whole line of questioning is about something deeper. You see, this connects to the real debate about universal injunctions, also known as nationwide injunctions, where activist judges think they can play Supreme Court for the entire country, binding people who weren't even parties to the lawsuit. This is unconstitutional judicial overreach. Federal courts have jurisdiction over cases and controversies, not issuing sweeping national policies. Now let's get to the real meat of this hearing: Trump v. CASA. This case challenged President Trump's executive order aimed at ending birthright citizenship. For years, globalist elites and open-border radicals have abused the 14th Amendment to grant automatic citizenship to children born to illegal immigrants. That's not what the amendment was meant for. It was designed after the Civil War to secure the rights of freed slaves, not to reward illegal border crossings. But here we have a judge, a Reagan appointee no less, calling Trump's order blatantly unconstitutional. And yet, the state of Tennessee, under the direction of its attorney general, filed a friend of the court brief in support of the president's move. They argued that the historical understanding of the 14th Amendment is far more nuanced than the left wants to admit. Ms. Darfur stood by that brief and, rightfully so, highlighted that even courts disagreeing with Trump cited Tennessee's brief as well-written and helpful. That's a win, folks. That means we're putting intellectual firepower behind originalist, constitutional arguments. We are not backing down. But of course, Senator Dick Durbin, Democrat from Illinois and a man seemingly allergic to constitutional fidelity, wants to talk about the Federalist Society. According to him, it's a secret handshake club for Republicans. You'd think he was describing some shadowy cabal. The reality is, the Federalist Society has trained some of the most brilliant constitutional minds in America. People who understand that the judiciary is supposed to interpret law, not legislate from the bench. Durbin then pivots to trashing Leonard Leo and this new network, the Tenno Network. He calls Leo a sleazebag, which is typical left-wing projection. When they lose control of the narrative, they resort to smears. Now Ms. Darfur admits to recently joining this new network, likely another forum for legal professionals who care about the rule of law. And Durbin presses her, almost incredulously, on why she would join such a network. The reason is simple. Patriotic Americans want to talk to other patriots. We want to work together. We want to defend the Constitution. And that scares the living daylights out of the left. Here's the kicker, folks. Ms. Darfur was very clear. She represents the state of Tennessee. She files briefs on their behalf. And their brief in the CASA case didn't even take a final position on Trump's order. It simply said the issue wasn't as open and shut as the activist judges claimed. That's not radical. That's honest lawyering. And more importantly, it challenged the ever-expanding power of the judiciary to impose national policy from the bench. That's exactly what we've been warning about for years. We need more constitutional warriors like Josh Hawley and more state officials willing to stand up to the unelected judicial oligarchy. This isn't about party politics. It's about preserving the separation of powers and ensuring that the Constitution, not the latest activist whim, governs our republic. If you care about stopping activist judges, restoring originalism, and defending President Trump's America First policies, this is your fight. Thanks for tuning in to the Constitution Corner. If you like this breakdown, smash that like button, subscribe, and share this video with fellow patriots. The fight for the soul of our republic depends on informed Americans like you. We are the Constitution Corner, where Americans' root guides its future. Until next time, stand strong, speak truth, and may God bless the United States of America.